Hi guys, welcome to Polyphonic Tarot. My name is Prince of Cups 518, and today we're going to be talking about the Five of Swords in Aleister Crowley's Taught Tarot. So here it is, the Five of Swords. The card is called the Lord of Defeat, and so it is clearly one of the more negative cards in the deck, and it does represent loss or betrayal or just defeat. It's pretty clear. It's usually, when you're in competition of some kind and you're on the losing team in some way or another. This is a card of people taking advantage of you or committing some sort of aggressive thing against you, coming for you. They're coming for you in this card. It is not a card of brotherly love, and so I think that sorry guys, I'm still getting over my my cold apparently, the cough that won't go away. But this card is Venus in Aquarius, and so it has this sense of it that has to do with that concept of brotherly love to an extent. Aquarius is the sign of the human race, really. It's the sign that is so much associated with human beings and the way we come together in groups and interact with each other particularly. And it's also the symbol of kind of how we find our unique individuality despite our being part of different groups and subgroups and divisions. And Venus, of course, is a planet of love and softness and gentility. And so you would think Venus and Aquarius would be a positive combination, but it actually is not, because now we have the Sephira of Gabora activating in the sword suit. And we've already talked about how the sword suit has so many disastrous seeds having been already sown, even up in the supernal triangle, even with the Three of Swords, which is really the supernal's reflection of the Five of Swords, the ideal reflection of it. The seeds of destruction were really sown, or seeming destruction, the illusion of destruction, were sown in that Sephira, the feeling of separation and isolation instead of unity. And this is sort of that same idea, but applied in a very aggressive and deliberate way by a person or a group of people. It's an individual basically either backstabbing someone or causing them grief, just not treating someone with respect, really, just not doing something in a person's best interest is what this card is all about. So this card is a dark card. It is not a positive card to usually get, and it does have a kind of aggressive element to it. So this is what he says about it. Now this text is not one of his better sections of text, and you'll see why. Gabora, as always, produces disruption, but as Venus here rules Aquarius, weakness rather than excess of strength seems to be the cause of disaster. The intellect has been enfeebled by sentiment. The defeat is due to pacifism. Treachery also may be implied. The hilts of the swords form the inverted pentagram, always a symbol of somewhat sinister tendency. Matters are even worse. None of the hilts resemble any of the others, and their blades are crooked and broken. The rose has been destroyed from the previous cards, like in the Three of Swords. Well, the rose first came to us in the Two of Swords, then we had it in the Three of Swords, and it really bloomed in the Four. But now it's completely destroyed. The historian is happy to observe. Okay, so here is where we get Crowley being a jerk, basically. The historian is happy to observe the two perfect illustrations of the mode of this card, and the last in the birth of the Aeon of Osiris to Horus, etc. He will note the decay of such virtue, capitalized virtue, as characterized Sparta and Rome, ending in the establishment of the Pax Romana. As virtue declined, still capitalized, corruption disintegrated the empire from within. Epicene cults, such as those of Dionysus in its degraded form, of Attis, of Adonis, of Cybele, the false Demeter, and the prostituted Isis, replaced the sterner rites of the true solar phallic gods, until finally, the masters having lost the respect and so the control of the plebs, native and alien, the lowest of all the slave cults, dressed up in the fables of the vilest of the parasitic races, swept over the known world and drenched it in foul darkness for 500 years. He will delight to draw close parallels with the cognate phenomena displayed before the present generation. So if you didn't catch that, he's basically being an anti-Semite, very clearly so. And he is basically saying in this last paragraph that, and he gets this, I think he gets this from Nietzsche pretty directly, actually. I mean, I would put much money that Crowley was obsessed with Nietzsche to an extent. I mean, Nietzsche is all over Crowley's work. I mean, Nietzsche is invoked in one way or another countless times in really the entire Thelemic ideal. I mean, the two, Nietzschean philosophy and Thelema, go very hand in hand, skipping down the hill together. And I think this comes almost directly from Nietzsche's text on the genealogy of morals. In that book, he talks a lot about how basically the Jewish people were the ones who ruined the world to an extent by basically unleashing Christianity upon us and thereby castrating the kind of warrior, more masculine class that Rome had idealized, and that is how the Jews got their kind of ultimate revenge on the Roman state. Now, obviously, this is totally ahistoric and is completely based on really terrible opinions. So we really have to take a lot of this with the smallest grain of salt. We have to weed through this quite a bit. There is some truth to the fact that Christianity did totally castrate any real concept of masculinity being an active force or a powerful force. I mean, activity and power are two things that Christianity does not desire for its disciples. Everything is so passive, and everything is much more about being meek and humble and weak before God, and all because you ultimately fear God and the consequences God is going to sick upon you if you don't do what he asks you to do. So this whole theory, and this theory that is really largely rooted in fear of the divine instead of real love of the divine. It's more like fear of the divine. That paranoia is to an extent what got rid of that virtue in society, and it remained, to be fair, if you really look at the history of the Dark Ages that followed the onset of Christianity, because this is a subspecialty of mine. I mean, warriorism did continue through the Dark Ages. I mean, obviously the Dark Ages were a very bloody time, and there were sort of pretty ironically, bishops and priests, particularly bishops, who were known for being warrior bishops, and who would wage war on different neighboring feudal groups of people. They were a very violent group of people, despite having a religion that preached peace and diplomacy, really. As much as Crowley wants to say that ruined the West and the West's concept of masculinity, and therefore the West's concept of God, and really the West's concept of femininity as well, that it just ruined all of our concepts of gender and sexuality and what those concepts are supposed to be like naturally. By getting rid of those concepts, we were really ruined and put into the darkness of stupidity. It's not really a fair equation. But that is what he's saying. Whether or not you agree with that is kind of up to you. I disagree with that. I don't think that that's fair, and I think, obviously, we have to denounce all the vile terminology that he is using to describe the Jewish people the vilest of the parasitic races. That is like straight out of Nietzsche. That is just German anti-Semitism at its best, or worst, depending on how you want to look at it. It's just bad stuff here. So this is my, in some ways, my least favorite thing that Crowley ever wrote. I still love this book. I still think this book is incredibly useful, but that is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen him write. And God knows he wrote many terrible things and many stupid things. But for the most part, this book is genius. So, so when you get this card really does mean weakness in some capacity. You know, whatever way you look at it, you know, as far as whatever history he's trying to invoke here, the card is about weakness because of that element of Venus being put under fire by Gabora. Gabora and Venus do not get along. They are totally contradictory. And so this concept of kind of brotherly love of like everyone needs to get along that was established in the Four of Swords, that is being shown to be totally not possible in the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords is the inevitable result of the Four of Swords, shows us that eventually, you know, there is going to be aggression and confrontation just because everyone is different. There are so many different opposing forces working against each other in various ways because of the illusion of separatism and isolation, that defeat and violence and negativity are unfortunately inevitable aspects of being separated beings. You know, and the Six of Swords is sort of what teaches us to try to still find value in that, to try to still find value in the dark as well as the light. And we'll talk about that more, obviously, in the Six of Swords video. But for now, that's all we've got for the Five of Swords today. I hope this cleared up any questions you may have had about this card. It's very simple. Minor Arcana are super simple. It's just, you know, if you are interested in learning this deck, some of his explanations for them are a little obtuse. So I hope this is continuing to help you all. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe, like my stuff. If you did, share it, and you can follow me on Twitter at PrinceOfCups518, or check out my website, polyphonictarot.com, to book a reading with me anytime. All right, thanks, guys, and take care. Thanks for watching.